Okay, good night. So you've seen I've uploaded the two videos that I highlighted the crucible with turpentine. So it was quite a fire, even though I shut the I stopped the fire very quickly in the two, but I lighted it again because I wanted to make sure that all the turpentine is actually burned. I didn't want turpentine to left in there, but there are still oil in there, which is good. And after that, I've taken 3 samples, and we will actually watch the samples right now under the microscope. They're actually sitting for like maybe an hour or so because I've done other stuff. So one of the things that I did is, after I've taken the sample, is they connect the electrolysis to, I've added my own P, to the mixture. So now the crucible is still full to the brim, and I connected the electrolysis, and it will be connected for quite some time, and we should see, tomorrow or so we should watch the results, and also hopefully this will, and I've covered it with the red glass with the symbol on it, so it will or symbolize the bicycle effect of electrocution of all sorts of people all over the world. This is needed in order for me to be able to breathe, because just as I said, the Israelis just, they don't, they want to eat me, literally. They're angry. They didn't get their meal, and it's only getting worse. And I need to breathe. I cannot. I need air. I need to breathe. I cannot. This cannot continue. So hopefully this night will somehow prompt some people from other places to perhaps move an arm or a leg, so I will be able to breathe, me and my daughter. This is a very sad situation, but this is reality, and it's reality for quite some time, and it's only getting worse because the Israelis do not see arm and leg. They only see mouses and tongues, and they are the masters of mouses and tongues. They do not fear mouses and tongues. That's their special skill for many years. And they don't even know how an arm or leg looks like, because no one abroad ever saw that. They should use an arm or a leg. So, and of course, I don't know if it's actually needed. Maybe it's needless to say, but I haven't spoken a lot about, at least not recently, about the purge that took place in the Israeli intelligence during the 80s. I've spoken about it in the past, actually. And as I've said, it also affected the KGB and the MI6 and other intelligence services. Of course, not randomly. The people that were most affected, as always, were the people that actually ate the tea to the largest extent. This makes sense both from moral perspective, because they took the greatest part in the subjugation of innocent people, but also it's physically it's just because the spaceships, and I've discussed it a lot in the past, and it's actually related to many experiments that I've done myself here, related to electrolysis, actually, with the metal chamber. What actually happens is that the spaceships, they send electrical charge. There's kind of, I don't know exactly how it works, but I have a strong assumption, I would say, assumption is that there is an electrical circle that's between the ship and the magnetic core of the Earth. It flows through the neurons in the body of humans, and the more neurons, the more robots you have in the body, the more you're subjected to this electrocution. So mostly the people that died, were the people that ate. So obviously it was all of the Shabak and the Mossad. It was just purged, but also many people abroad, and I don't know if it's, if even it should be said. It's obvious. The main issue back in the day, in the 80s, was the same. It was the same issue right now, because it's not that they didn't have the information or it was like a misunderstanding. I mean, trying to think too much about what they knew or didn't know, or like, I mean, there was, I mean, to think maybe there was like an error like in decision making or like in the politician level. This is, I mean, this is just, I mean, to intentionally miss the mark, because the problem was, there was one problem back in the day, like in the 80s, 1980s, it's still the same problem, and this is the problem of the mouse, the mouse. The mouse, the Russians and the Americans, they kept talking, they kept speaking. For years, they spoke, and the cherubs listened and listened and listened. And there is like one point in time, it happened during the 1980s. There is like a point that, I mean, the cherubs decide, okay, we've heard enough. And then they restart the meat grinder. And the duration between the moment that they come to the conclusion that they've heard enough and they start the meat grinder, and so the duration between this moment and the moment that the Mossad and the Shabak do not exist, and also large part of the CIA and the KGB, the duration is about 1 second. And you need to understand that. It takes 1 second. 1 second and it's done. Because as I said several times, these machines, not the garlic and this kind of like a makeshift kind of like, I mean, sculpture. I mean, that, I mean, soon hopefully I mean, a new spaceship, I mean, that was properly built will take its place, and another one that hopefully I will prepare today with these metal balls. But these ships, I mean, you need to understand, they were designed to participate in wars beyond your imagination. Things, I mean, things that... when I speak about Titanomachy, I speak about wars that you cannot even find such wars in science fiction. Like, I guess most of you are like... I mean, even if you're not like science fiction geeks, like maybe you probably you've seen Star Wars because it's so famous. Like, I mean, whatever. I mean, I haven't seen, like, I mean, I've seen like of course the original trilogy and the prequels in cinema actually, and I've seen like from the sequel trilogy. I've seen the first and it was awful, so I skipped the rest. But whatever. I mean, you need to understand that whatever like space battle that you see in these films, and never mind if it's realistic or not, it's not. But from the aspect of, I mean, from the perspective, and it's the same for Star Trek. I mean, the scale is completely wrong because I mean, both because, I mean, lack of imagination, also, I mean, lack of, like, I mean, and artistic reasons, also, I mean, probably, I mean, also, like, I mean, budget reasons, because reality is completely different. I mean, these machines were designed to, and I've said it, but I mean, it's important enough to say it again. They were designed to acquire billions of targets in a second simultaneously, and to destroy the target simultaneously, like in the number in the billions. Like, I mean, whatever you see in movies like Star Trek or like Star Wars or Star Trek, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, it's like a WWF or WCW fight, like the Royal Rumble. I mean, it was popular when I was a child. It's like the Royal, I mean, the Royal, it's like, I mean, comparing what you see in Star Wars or Star Trek movies to the wars that, I mean, that these ships are actually designed to fight. I mean, it's like comparing the Royal Rumble to World War II, okay? The scale is just completely different. So the actual time between the decision that, okay, we've heard enough, these people, I mean, the Russians and the Americans, they spoke so much, we've heard enough. So there is like, I mean, and they listen, but there is a point of time that they decided, yes, we've listened, okay, we have heard, I mean, everything that needs to be heard, and thank you very much for all of your speech, and now it's time to I mean, to stop the auditory channel and to use another channel that conveys information, which is by using the meat grinder, and again, the duration between that moment and the moment that the CIA and the KGB and the Mossad and the Shabak do not exist, it takes a second. It takes 1 second. Because the scale is completely, you are dealing with machines that were made to design to participate in conflicts that are in completely different scale from anything you know, even like in your fictional creation, literature and cinema. So it's 1 second and that's it. It's 1 second. 1 second. The only question is, when the people in these spaceships will arrive to the conclusion that they've heard enough. And we are very close to this point. It could be any moment now that they will decide, okay, we've heard enough. No more sound is needed. No more transmission information is needed from the people of the earth. And this could be this moment could occur any moment right now. And it's 1 second later, and the intelligence services of this world do not exist. So you need to stop the production of sound. Not only sound waves, but also messages and text and symbols and signs and you need to stop communication, and you have to recall that God has given you arms and legs, and you need to. And there wasn't a time in history of human beings that you as a race, like the human, like as a species, there wasn't a time in your entire history that you had better usage of your arms and legs than right now. And the usage is to move them, not in a symbolic way, but in an actual way, like an actual mechanical movement of arms and legs, not metaphorical ones, but actual ones, is required from outside of Israel into Israel. And again, without the production of sound, waves, or symbols, or signs, or textual bombs, or dramas, or all sort of artistic representation of reality. All of these are not needed and are actually very dangerous at the moment, because what is required of you is to stop the production of these sound waves and artistic representation of reality, and to move your actual arms and legs from outside of Israel into Israel. And I do not know how to explain it, more than I do almost every day, that this is what is expected from you. Actual movement of arms and legs. Actual, most of you have, you know that you have a mouse because you continuously use it. So the mouse, is like is a hole in the middle of container that is connected to another container, and these containers, mostly, they are connected to 4 limbs, and these limbs can be moved, and you need to move them, from outside of Israel into Israel. And this is incredible. I cannot stress how much it is important that you do so, because any minute could be a replay of what was happening in the 80s, but now in a much grander scale, because many more people are involved. Any moment, the cherubs in these starships can decide what they decided in the 80s, that we've heard enough. And again, I will say, in the last time, because it's that important, so I will say it again and again, the duration between the moment that they reach the conclusion that enough sound was transmitted between the actors in this show, so the duration between this moment and the moment that the Mossad and Shabak and the CIA and the KGB and the MI6 do not exist at all, the duration is 1 second. 1 second. When the meat grinder starts, you don't have time to rethink if you used the limbs that God has given you, wisely. You don't, maybe you can meditate on this question when you are in heaven or hell, but not in this earth. Because of the scale, there is such a huge difference in scale between the capabilities of these machines and what actually is required in order to stop the transmission of sound. Stop it. The difference in scale, makes, the required actions to be a set of actions that takes only 1 second. And this could be any moment. It could be the last moment. It already happened. Anyway, what we will do now is to actually inspect the slides, that the samples that were taken before, after the burn. Right after it burns, like when it actually was still very hot, the material, but before the electrolysis, of course, that takes place right now. So we'll connect. I'll start this video now. I'll do it in a separate video, just so there will be like a logical. So there will be, so the videos with the microscopic evidence will be like, separated logically. And after that, I will continue working on another spaceship, like proper spaceship. And I will finish the assembling of this spaceship. And maybe if I'll have energy, I don't know, maybe even tonight, I will hold another video on the Ziggurat of Ur saga. I would say that I've taken some time to read your comments on the last chapter, of course, many of you thought, along the reasonable lines of but I would say as a teaser for the 13th chapter that yes, most of you, yes, you are in the correct, indeed in the correct, I would say in a general correct direction. I think as the true nature of what's happened in Vilnius during the 60s and the nature of the conspiracy. So yes, you are you are in the correct direction, but as a teaser, I would say that it's not exactly what you think it is, and it's actually much more complicated than that. And the reality is actually much more complicated. So the common answer that was presented is somewhat true, but not completely accurate, and the reality is actually more complicated and more interesting. And so this is kind of like a teaser. But I will see if I'll have energy to speak about it later today, because I want to do the microscopic work and also to work on the spaceships. So we will see. Maybe tomorrow, maybe today.